Good morning, everyone. This is Frank Donaldson, and I'd like to welcome you to our classroom number 7, which is going to be dealing with a couple of timely topics this morning. How to make a development director successful, and also taking a look at some different strategies in regards to our enrollment management efforts. I had to kind of change the venue a little bit this morning, and that the internet at the office was not working, so I had to go to plan B, and I think we're all squared away to begin now. And so with those thoughts in mind, we have other people joining us. I had Jessica had emailed everyone and let you know that I might be running a few minutes late, but I think we're good to go. And so let's go ahead and move on. I do want to thank so many of you that continue to work with the homework assignments. Let's begin, though, with opening prayer, as we always do. Let us remember we're in God's holy presence. Lord, please be with us as we continue to advance and develop our efforts at our Catholic schools. Let us, since the beginning class of this series, always understand that development indeed is about meaningfully involving, inviting, and engaging people. Let us understand that the work that we are about is work that will advance our Catholic schools so we can build a stronger vision, a stronger school, and obviously stronger students for the future. Let us be open as we move into two timely topics this morning in terms of making sure that our folks that work with development and that the people that we want to attract and retain in our Catholic schools are all about the gospel message. Let us continue our advancement and development efforts and making sure that the work we do is about bringing people closer to you and you closer to people. All of these things we ask in your name. Amen. So as we take a look at moving forward with this particular lesson, we are going to obviously look and see some strategies, and there are some handouts that I'm going to email to you after this webinar this morning. In fact, I'll do it today. I'm going to refer to those handouts during the course of the presentation. The handouts are actually not in the book. They are handouts that are have been developed since then. And I want to be able to make sure you get them. So I'll be emailing that out to you today. And as usual, as we always say, when you do communicate, continue to communicate, please, with me at this email address. So as we look at this, we have obviously been through a lot of lessons thus far. We have talked about, in Lesson 1, involvement of people. We have talked about the value of our mission statement, our vision statement, our core values. We have talked about leadership in our Catholic schools. We have talked about building community through communication. We have talked about moving from fundraising to true Catholic development. And this will be a lesson that actually repeats itself, because we are very adamant about the fact that in order to move into true Catholic school development, we have got to make sure we know what we're doing. And that's the master plan for fundraising chart that we will refer to. And also we talked about the idea of building a customer service culture in your Catholic school. We talked about building relationships with your school families, promoting the value of faculty, staff, and board development, and emphasizing the value of the core team, one of the most important lessons in the book. And then, once again, seeking input from your constituents on a consistent basis, using input sessions and the survey that we indicated that really talks about the ultimate question. And we are going to take a look at the assessment for the development efforts, and that was a homework assignment, which would have been rather lengthy, but yet at the same time, we had several schools that did launch into that and take that on. And we talked about at the last class creating the strategic plan for your school and how important that is. And so thank you all that have sent in the homework assignments. A lot of the assignments were assignments that dealt with the value that you see in having that strategic plan. for your Catholic school. And we still received probably about a dozen of those this morning. And once again, as we did say, I think it's important for all of us to understand the homework assignments. We realize that with your school schedules, and we realize with so many demands upon your time and so many things that you are doing in your schools, that some of these can't always get in on time, and we do understand that. In fact, we still have probably about 20 to 25 people who indicated they are behind in their homework and will be sending that along. And so most of the folks that did the homework assignment did deal with a 1 to 2 paragraph response. If I had to sum up the overall thoughts of the probably 25 or 30 that I did read in regards to folks talking about the importance of the strategic growth plan to development advancement efforts, is the fact that two things came out of a lot of those comments. One was the value of engaging people in helping you create that strategic growth plan. Such an important step in the process that the strategic growth plan is not just created by a handful of people, but it does allow you and gives you the opportunity to make sure that you have others that can certainly get involved and build ownership. Belonging leads to believing. The other piece that many of you indicated was with the strategic growth plan, it gives you the opportunity then to be able to sit down with a prospective donor, just to talk with your parents, to talk with your alums, your past parents and others, businesses, etc., and be able to clearly articulate a vision and what the priorities are to that vision and what is needed in order to fund that vision. That's what the strategic growth plan gives you. And this is what those 2 points were the ones that were expressed by most everyone. And really, based upon what you had to say and what the last lesson brought up, we really feel that you're right on point. Those are the 2 pieces that we find to be so valuable. So as we look at this, please understand that about the homework. And as we continue on, let's talk about these 2 lessons that we'll be looking at today. You know, many times in our workshops and in working with clients and working with dioceses, working with a bunch of schools over in the Diocese of Pensacola, Tallahassee, heading up north to work with Catholic schools in the Diocese of Buffalo here in a few weeks. And I have the wonderful opportunity of being able to, with that in mind, to be able to have people that will come up as development directors, and those development directors are people that really are in the trenches. And many times I will ask and inquire about how they're doing. And many times the development officers that we speak with, men and women that, especially that are just starting out, in some cases they are not moving along quite like they thought. And usually we find that there are 7 reasons why they don't. And actually those 7 reasons are the same 7 reasons of why people that are involved in this work don't stay beyond a year or 2 or even longer. And I think a lot of it is lack of understanding of development, in the sense that quite possibly they came into development from the nonprofit world where there was a lot of fundraising events. And that's their bent, that's their focus. Many cases there's no written plan of action. That'll be another lesson later on. There's no ongoing professional training that is provided. Everything is measured by how much money did you raise, how much money did you raise, how much money did you raise. And of course, as you know, in taking this class, that is a measurement, but that is not the only measurement in terms of how can we engage people. And then constantly running from one fundraiser to the other, the lack of realization that development indeed does take time. It's not something that you just start up and get rolling. And then little time spent recharging the battery, so to speak. And those are the reasons that we see why development directors struggle. And so with that in mind, what I wanted to share with you were the tips that are in the book, expand on them a little bit, but really allow us all to see that there are some things that we find are very important. First of all is I applaud all of you that continue to stay dedicated to this class. I think that this allows you to stay on course, allows you to stay with some homework assignments that can certainly help you, allows you to grow in your ministry, allows you to get quote-unquote trained, even though it is online and not in person. And so I do want to applaud you for doing that. I hope that you will continue. We are looking at different ways down the line for this company to continue to provide training, education, but there are other areas and other venues, NCA convention. There are dioceses that bring schools in to get them trained, and whether they be pastors or principals or presidents or development officers or marketing directors, enrollment management directors, parent leaders, boards. So being able to take advantage of things like that are very important. You know, secondly is making sure that the leaders in your school are educated. It's really important that they understand what development really is, like we're talking about. Many times people who sit on boards and finance councils and the like, they see development as just fundraising. And that's all it is. How much money did you raise, how much money did you raise, how much money did you raise. Next is in terms of tips for success is make those personal visits. We've talked about that every week. I have always said that a good rule of thumb is to have a cup of coffee and meet eyeball to eyeball with 5+ people every week. And not necessarily asking for money, just sharing with them. If you've done the strategic growth plan, what a wonderful opportunity to sit down and speak with someone. So making those personal visits, working from a written plan of action, that is one of the lessons that is in the book that we'll jump into and really deal with later on. You know, encourage consideration of 3 years. And what I mean by that is that most development advancement efforts are going to take several years to get roots. This is a people business, and it's going to take a while to be able to move this forward from the standpoint of making sure that the people that you work with, those relationships need time to grow. And it's always, it's exponential. You're always going to meet people who know people who know people, and make sure, next of all, you bond with the staff. As we talked about in an earlier lesson, the faculty and staff are so important to your development advancement efforts, your enrollment management, your marketing efforts, so important. And so making sure then that you have a good relationship, that you understand what they're doing in their classes, and they understand what you're doing with development. I mentioned before having a little monthly update from the Development Advancement Office, word processed, one sheet of paper, you know, preferably one side only, and putting it in the faculty staff mailboxes, just keeping them up to date. Very, very important. Work with the core team, assembling and working with the core team. I want to really emphasize that becomes so important to making sure that you're not the Lone Ranger, and making sure that you are moving things forward with the help of people. And we've gone into that a lot. I just mentioned the next one, word process, a monthly update. Really important that people know what's going on in development and advancement. Let it be an area that people become familiar with, that they know your schedule, they know what's coming up, they know what exactly you're doing. And I think the key here is, granted, you want to state and list all of the fundraising events that you do. I understand that. But have that update be a little bit more than just, you know, the galas is this month and we're doing a raffle sale this month and the golf tournament this month. Have it be more than that. Have it be more than just being able to deal with a situation where you're listing the dates of upcoming fundraising events. The next, listen, listen, listen. And by that we mean, in speaking with people, making sure you understand their needs, faculty and staff. making sure that you understand what a donor is interested in, making sure that you, as you invite people to participate in the annual appeal, that you listen to what they have to say, especially if you're doing phone outreach, phone-a-thons and phone outreach efforts. Being able to make sure that that is key to making sure that your efforts then are built upon what people are having to say. Your core team, another excellent group for you to listen to. Make healthy choices. And by that, we certainly mean, many times development officers, this can be a 7-day-a-week job if you let it. And so I think it's important that you make sure you get your downtime in place, that you make sure that if you are out the night before working a phone-a-thon and on at 10 o'clock, that you realize that's a 12 or 14-hour day. And so therefore making sure that you work your schedule to your advantage so you don't get burnt out. That burnout is something that is very alive and very real with development officers. Reward yourself. And by, reward yourself, that's taking that time off. That's going to a 2 or 3 day workshop away and staying in a hotel, and build that in your budget so you can interact with other development officers. You can meet other people from across the country or in your region or in your state or in your diocese. And then lastly, be responsible, but don't guard your kingdom. And what I mean by that is don't take everything on yourself. Don't feel like you have to be the Lone Ranger. Go ahead and delegate. Go ahead and ask people to do things. Okay, so what if they don't do it exactly like you would have wanted to do it? That's okay. That's okay. And so in terms of this, I think it's important that we look at this and make sure that we are moving in a direction that is healthy, that is viable, that is engaging, and that you address everything from a team approach. And I think that becomes really key to it all. And so with this in mind, I think that as you look at setting up your development director for success, one of the questions that comes in, and we're asked all the time, should development officers be on an hourly wage? Should they be on a salary? I've seen it work both ways, especially with present laws and the like. I've always felt that the advancement officer, and this is me, I'm once again bent in my prejudice. I've always felt that the development director, the advancement officer, is a member of the faculty and staff and should be actually part of the administrative team. I know back years ago when I was a development officer, I was a viable member of the administrative team, and I think that becomes important. In fact, when we work with schools and they have the principal there, they've got the assistant principal, they've got person in charge of discipline, person in charge of athletics, person in charge of facilities. The advancement development officer should be at that table. And so I do not see this unless based upon your budgets. I would much prefer a salaried position rather than a position that is, that is going to be done on a basis where you would be, having someone on an, now if it's something that is part-time, then fully understand that, but even that could be looked at in terms of salary too. So I think it's very important that development officers be set up to succeed. These are some tips for making it happen. I think it's important, and I want to just kind of move back to these slides right here at the beginning of this lesson. I think it's important, as you look at this slide, that people understand what development is. Your faculty and your staff, your finance council, your parish council, even your, and I know this sounds strange, but in some cases I've seen where even pastors and principals don't really have a good grasp on what development is. And so, having that good understanding, having that written plan of action, making sure you get your battery charged with professional training, and realizing that development is not just all about money. and making sure your development efforts don't just go from, I've had so many development directors through the years. I'll say, how things are going? And they'll say, oh, okay. And I said, well, let me ask you this. Do you feel like you're the plate spinner in the circus? And so many times I'll let somebody say, yes. I once again just go from one fundraising event to the other. And so, the realization that it does take time, and these are so key that in order to make it all work, it has to be in an environment that is team-oriented. It has to be in an environment that really is conducive to success. So hopefully these pieces here, can resonate. I think that's why the development assessment that was given out at the last lesson is an excellent piece to use, because it does refer to some of these points that we're going through in lesson 13. So once again, I think that's important to understand. Lesson 14, I alluded to this earlier. We have covered this, and we cover it again in this lesson, the ability to create a master plan for your fundraising events. Kind of interesting that we talk about making sure your development efforts are not just one fundraiser after the other, and then we follow that with the real strong suggestion that a master plan, a chart, and of course this lesson in pages 71, 72, 73 of the book will lead you to that. But once again, the chart is the one that we see is so important, because without the chart you really don't have a really good visual. I'm working with the schools in the Diocese of Pensacola, Tallahassee. It's a workshop series, and I go there every 6 weeks, and there's homework assignments. One of the homework assignments they had last Thursday, this was their third workshop, was to produce this chart, and it was very, very eye-opening. When I first introduced it in workshop 2, I could tell that there were some folks that were a little bit reluctant, because I said, now on this chart, it's very important that where you see FR for fundraiser, that you list everything, that you don't just list the main ones. And if you're a parish with an elementary school, that you list the parish fundraising events and you list the school fundraising events, and that you list them all, that you not just shy away if the cheerleaders are doing a raffle sale, or if the band boosters are doing this, or the athletic department's doing that, or the theater arts program is selling ads for their theater program. List it all. You need to list it all. And it was really interesting as they brought their charts to the workshop last Thursday. And after we looked at some of them, and some of them had really spent a lot of time, and actually one school had actually taped 4 poster boards together, and it recreated this chart. And it was a very big chart that everyone could see. And I asked the question, I said, what exactly did you learn from this? And to a person, they said, we are doing way too many fundraisers, and it really is kind of dampening our annual appeal and our donor work, because people then are supporting small little fundraisers with $25, $50, $10, whatever, and they're not considering the larger picture. And so this chart showed us where we are. Number 2 is we realize in that first blue column where it says P for parents, almost every one of our fundraisers, there was a check mark in that column. And so not only are we asking our parents to pay tuition, support the fundraisers, but also get involved with the annual appeal. And so it was an eye-opener. And so that's why we are suggesting and come back and actually revisit this lesson. We find that it's that important to make sure that you understand that this particular lesson, we want to drive home the point that you understand what your fundraisers are and whether or not your fundraisers are actually being productive or whether your fundraisers are ones that really are going to be counterproductive. And that's what you don't want. You certainly do not want that. So that's what this lesson was all about. And hopefully you will recreate this chart. It can be very eye-opening. The rest of the lesson today, we're going to spend some 25, 30 minutes on enrollment management. And this is probably one of the most important topics that we'll ever talk about. This actually is a one-day, two-day, one-week-long workshop, and I realize I'm trying to cover it in 30 minutes. But I do want to hit some highlights. What I've done in this lesson, pardon me, I'm just getting over a cold. What I've done in this lesson is I've added some things that are not in the book. And so I'll be sending you this PowerPoint along with these handouts. As I said, in fact, when we wrap up today, I'll try to get that out to everybody here in the next hour or so. But I think it's important that we take a look at some things. Some of the things we've already covered in the book. Some of the things we'll be covering in later lessons. But I think it's important that we understand that enrollment management, and I always get some pushback from this, but that's okay. Enrollment management is the most important thing that a Catholic school can do. And the pushback I get is no, it's not. Our Catholic identity is. No, it's not. Our academic excellence is. No, it's not. Our leadership is. And my point is not to argue with anyone, but my point is without students, you do not have a school. You could have the greatest technology lab in the world, but if there's no students that are going to take advantage of it, you may have the most wonderful mission and Catholic identity component of your Catholic school, but if you do not have students that you can integrate into that mission and into all of those wonderful opportunities to help in their faith formation, then you have nothing. So it's important that everyone understands that their job in enrollment management is just as important as the person that's specifically in charge of it. In many Catholic schools, there is a director of enrollment management, there's a director of student recruitment, there's a director of marketing, whatever title you want to use. In some cases, schools do not have the money to hire someone like that. And so therefore, the effort lands on the shoulders of the principal or assistant principal or a handful of volunteers. But I think it's important, regardless of your configuration, pardon me, regardless of your configuration, I think it's important that everyone who comes into your Catholic school needs really to be educated on these 3 bullet points on number 2. What are the top 10 selling points for your Catholic school? That becomes another lesson that's coming up very soon, and we're going to talk about that and how to develop it. And I'm going to show you some samples of some schools that have developed it and with much success. Just think if you're, and just listen to this, what if your administration, your faculty, your staff, your students, your parents, your board, your parish council, your finance council, your alumni leaders, if all of those messengers shared the same message, meaning the top 10 selling points for your school, and taking it another step further, all of those groups that I just named had a voice in suggesting what those top 10 would be. How powerful would that be? Well, there's schools that are doing that, and it becomes something that is really outstanding in terms of their ability then to make a huge difference in terms of spreading those wonderful messages. Making sure also everyone understands the value of enrollment management and making sure everyone in the school understands his or her specific role in the enrollment management efforts. Very important faculty and staff understand that enrollment management is important, not just to show up at open house. They've got to realize they won't have a job unless they're students in the school. And so therefore, promote the belief, as Lesson 15 says, that enrollment management is everyone's responsibility. So here's some suggestions, okay? Here's some suggestions. There are a bunch of them, but I'm going to send this to you when we finish. Possibly as a subdivision of your core team, have an enrollment management core team. 7 to 10 leaders, good representation once again, both roll up your sleeve workers plus high-level thinkers, and they would be very vital to helping you implement those strategies that you want to move forward. So that enrollment management core team, don't think you have to create a new core team. This can be your core team, your development core team, and one of those subdivisions, those subcommittees, could be the enrollment management core team. Remember, we said the core team should be anywhere between 15, 18. Some have gone up to as much as 20 people. And let's say 7 of them work with just enrollment management. Maybe worked in some other area, but enrollment management was key. Suggestion 2, I'm going to send you a referral form. This is a form that you can invite your parents, your students, your faculty, staff, and parishioners, if applicable, to refer families for you to send information to about your Catholic school. We did this recently in a Catholic school, and we did it in a parochial school. And what we did was we handed out these referral forms at all the masses on a given weekend. And in this particular case, we received 78 referral forms back with over 125 people recommended for that Catholic school to send information to. So I will send you that referral form. It'll be, once again, one of the attachments that I will send to you. And then, if possible, get permission from the person recommending to possibly use their name. And the letter to the people that you'll be sending a packet of information is not any hard sell. It is simply indicating that their names have been suggested as quite possibly may be receptive in terms of receiving, may be interested in terms of receiving information about whatever the name of your school is. And so, once again, that referral form, suggestion 3, create your wow. This is a lesson in the book, and it'll be also your homework assignment, as we'll talk about in a minute. What is your wow? The wow must be visual, must be tourable, must be unique, must be distinctive, and above all, no one else should be able to say the same wow as you. What is your distinguishing characteristic? Above all, it must be memorable. Schools struggle with this. I don't know why it's that big of a struggle to understand, because the concept is pretty straightforward. The wow is just that. People identify your school and say, wow, they have this, or they stand for this, or they're about this. And so the wow could be part of your culture, could be part of your heritage, could be part of your history, could be part of your programs, could be part of your curriculum, could be part of your facilities, could be part of your technology, could be part of your Catholic identity, could be part of whatever. Okay, this is your wow. This is not your 10 selling points, although maybe one of those is the wow, but this is the wow. When people think of you, they say, wow. This, only you can say this. Now, this doesn't necessarily make you better than any school. It just simply distinguishes you. So, once again, create your wow. Suggestion 3. Utilize and implement your marketing plan. I'm going to send you, with the attachments, an outline, a multi-page outline to create a marketing plan. And this is something that I'm sure some of you have in place. This one is pretty detailed. And hopefully you can use this as either to develop and create one, or you can use this to check what you have in place against to make sure you've covered all bases. So this can be created with the enrollment management core team. So I'll send that to you in terms of your marketing plan. It'll be an outline. Well, you got to do is fill in a bunch of blanks. Postcard campaigns. There are a number of schools that have taken a look at their demographics. They have segmented their zip codes, and they have sent a bunch of postcards in a series to be able to inform and invite people. And so the postcard goes out to Catholic as well as non-Catholic, goes out to Catholic and private and public schools. They have companies that can sell these addresses. They're not that expensive. And you can move to what we call a postcard campaign, in which maybe you would introduce your Catholic school in postcard 1. You invite them to open house in postcard 2. They could possibly be invited to open up their own personalized URL and come on campus. You could send them the 4th one to Happy Holidays, whichever holiday is coming around, and then an invitation to come on campus for a visit, shadow day, an event, or whatever. But it's a series of postcard campaigns. As moving to suggestion 6, this is when you invite a prospect to have their own personalized website at the school. And so this could be part of the postcard email campaign where they click on a link and the link will take them, and then they list all of the things. Now follow me here, because this is pretty neat. And some schools are doing this, and the company down at the bottom, Blue Sky Creative in Cincinnati, is the one that set this up for some schools. That's if you wanted to, you kind of research a little bit more. But let's say the person clicks on the link that you send them, and then they have a list of items that they can check in terms of what their interests are. Are they interested in terms of what courses, what fields, what do they really like in regards to extracurriculars, all kinds of what their interest areas in both academically, both extracurricular, both in terms of clubs, organizations, et cetera, et cetera. And then once they receive that, then you're able to then send them, okay, and their actual own personalized URL where they can click on it, and you then provide them with all this backup material that they can just click on and see. It's pretty neat. If you wanted to research that, Blue Sky Creative in Cincinnati does a wonderful job with it. Develop your top 10. We talked about this earlier, and that's what we meant by it. And this engages everyone. Suggestion 8, the school ambassador team, making sure that you've got now follow what I mean by this. I'm not talking about a parent ambassador team that helps with open house. Take a look at every viable feeder source. Every viable feeder source, whether you're an elementary school or a secondary school or a pre-K through 12, whatever your configuration. Making sure that you have 1 or 2 ambassadors, many times your parents, past parents, making sure that you have ambassadors to every viable feeder source. You've got every ambassadors for every viable parish, Catholic and non-Catholic. Once again, Protestant, I emphasize that, where communication about your school is delivered and it's accomplished. Okay, and the point person for each civic community organization relevant to the school. So you're covered. You're covered with the Chamber of Commerce. You're covered with the Kiwanis. You're covered with Rotary. You're covered with the 5 Catholic parishes that feed into your elementary school. You're covered with, if you're a high school, with those 7 elementary schools that feed into your high school and those 12 parishes. You have 1 or 2 ambassadors for each viable feeder source, and these ambassadors, in many cases, are members of that parish, members of that school, members of that nursery school, members of that Rotary Club, members of that chamber. And they make sure the people that form that group, that feeder source, they receive information about your open house, about your shadow days, about whatever you want to let them know. You make sure that they get that information. Number 8, Super Saturdays. This is a concept that I personally got involved with and created many, many years ago, and have recommended it to a number of schools where the target audience is primarily middle school students, and you are trying to attract them to come on your campus. If we believe in the fact that families say yes to Catholic schools because in direct proportion relation to the number of times they've been on the campus, but this is 2 Saturdays in a row where from 9 to 12 students can come on campus and have fun. They can take computer games and cheerleading and dance team and photography and cooking and arts and crafts and drama and singing, etc. And the community, meaning your parents, the overall community, can serve as teachers. I know we did this here in New Orleans. The New Orleans Saints dance team taught the dance team. The Tulane Green Wave cheerleaders, they were the ones who taught the cheering. We had a chef here in New Orleans that did the cooking class. So these kids are invited to come, and then the second Saturday they come and parents are invited at 11:30, and then they see the aerobics class aerobicize, and the drama class put on a cutting, the photography class display their photographs, the dance team do the dance, the cheerleaders do their cheer, the cooking class serve whatever they serve. It's a wonderful thing for kids, especially in grades, primarily in grades 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, to come on campus and have fun. Exit interviews, making sure that you are doing these, as I'm sure you are. I just wanted to bring this out because we have found that in working with a number of schools, when this is conducted objectively, you have much better success. And so therefore, I've run across a number of schools where there are monthly reports that are reviewed by administration and enrollment management personnel. This is something that you need to stay on top of. As you know, you need to stay on top of this. Very important. Suggestion is to have more than one open house. Many of us have that comprehensive open house, but what is wrong with having 2 or 3 open houses where the other ones are centered around specific areas, specific demographics, and whether 2 people come or whether 20 people come. The fact is that you are not just putting all your eggs in one basket. There's a school that offers what's called the Mother Seton Scholarship, and this is a $1,000 scholarship, and this is offered to students in a Catholic parish, and it's recommended by the pastor. And so if there is a family that the pastor knows, or families, if the pastor knows that would like to come to that Catholic school, but quite possibly cannot afford the full board, and I just put $1,000, it could be more than that, then the pastor would make the recommendation. But the key is here that the pastor makes the recommendation, and the student that receives that scholarship also has a to-do list with the parish, where he or she has a relationship then with the parish and is involved in parish activities as a steward in that parish. And so it's not just here, oh, here's $1,000 or $2,500 or $5,000 or whatever, but you've been recommended by your pastor, and in terms of that, we want to build that strong collaborative relationship between our school and the parish. One of the things that I think we really need improvement on is educating people on the gap. And that's why we have always recommended these 4 organized, and I call them mandatory educational sessions on the cost of tuition and the actual cost to educate a Catholic school student. Session 1 would be for new families coming into the school, making sure, and the figures need to be clear. Number 2 would be all families in October, where the school budget can be presented. Number 3, and this would be quite possibly right before the annual appeal or time to go out with the annual appeal. Number 3 are all families in January in terms of taking a look at the gap and reinforcing the need for the annual appeal. And then session 4, all families in April, where you talk about the tuition for next year, where it's going, what has been accomplished in terms of you delivering that financial state of the school. I think we need to do a better job educating on the gap. When I talk with parents, and when I even talk with principals and the like, and I ask, do your parents understand the gap between tuition and expenses? The gap between what it costs to educate your child and what they pay in terms of what they pay for tuition expenses. And usually, I would say 80% of the time, the answer is no, they really do not. And so that's why we're suggesting that. We have looked at this, the ultimate question. It was in the previous lesson, and we strongly encourage you to move in that direction. That's a lesson in the book, as you know. It gives you the feedback that you need. Suggestion 15 is something we've been pounding on pretty strongly, that the number 1 reason people select your Catholic school is in direct relationship to how many times they've been on the campus. So the camps, the parent educational sessions, the academic games, the academic fairs, the sports tournaments, the performing arts invitations, the summer camps, all of these things. So very important in terms of making sure that you get and keep your campus really live and hopping. The customer service culture is suggestion 16. We also have talked about this, that in terms of that last bullet point that I've talked about before, that a Catholic school is going to attract the number of resources it deserves to attract, and what it deserves to attract will always be in direct relationship to the quality of its leadership, its programs, and its welcoming and engaging culture. There is a philosophy called the fish philosophy. It comes out of the Seattle fish market on the West Coast. Those of you who have seen the fish video, if you haven't seen it, then you need to Google it, because it is a great thing to show to your faculty and staff. And once again, we even have some schools that have formed customer service teams. Please, I really want to emphasize, don't sweep this one under the rug. This is the difference between your school prevailing and your school surviving, that customer service culture. Understand the enrollment funnel. This will be another handout that I will be sending you. It'll come in the attachments. And once again, I think you'll find it interesting in terms of loading up, your enrollment funnel. The relationships that you build in your partner and our feeder sources, making sure that you're building relationships with other principals in your feeder sources. And many times you may think, oh, well, I know this principal, he's a Catholic school principal. Well, I'm not just talking about that. How well do you know the principal at that Episcopal school, that Lutheran school? How well do you know the pastor? How well do you know those people that are the administration in your feeder sources? How well have your teachers built relationships with your partner in feeder schools? Some schools have really gone forward to really make this work. In fact, we know a number of schools that actually host teachers' methods workshops on their campus, in which they invite all teachers who teach a certain course or subject or grade level to come on campus and share their best practices. And it's led by the sponsoring school, but it's mainly a lot of sharing. It's not there where someone lectures and talks the whole time, where you have boards and councils having collaborative meetings. And once again, we just feel that it's so important, as you take a look at this team approach, that you build those team efforts beyond your walls, moving from that reactive to proactive stance. We've talked about this before. I spent a lot of time with it, with personal family visits, and we I don't want to pound this in the ground, but I do feel that it's important that you build this in, and you will find that your culture will vastly change if you do, because that last question, when you ask that family sitting in their living room, what can we do to make sure we build a partnership with you for a lifetime, is very intriguing. Parent receptions for prospective parents. In many cases, you'll have parents in the spring and even in the summer, families that are on the fence. They haven't made up their mind. They don't know whether the school is a good fit. Maybe they're looking at it from the standpoint of affordability. Maybe they're looking at it and they're down to two choices. And we've had a number of schools that parent to parent, they have had a parent, one of their present school families, that has hosted a reception in their home in which they invited these parents to come parent to parent and just have a conversation. No presentations. And this can be a major role of the parent ambassador team, where it was totally parent to parent. And so in terms of that, personally inviting those who have been accepted becomes really a key piece, that you could use, or you can invite those that are on the fence, or a combination thereof. I know one school that had 17 families on the fence. Actually, in June, they invited them all, and 11 of those families showed up, and 9 of those families became parents of the school. The principal's letter. This is a letter that if you would like me to send you a copy, I certainly will. This is focused on families who have not committed, possibly because of money. This is a personal letter from the principal, and the letter from the principal basically says that we realize that making a choice to come to a Catholic school it can be challenging, and there are many reasons that and many things that people think about, all the way from location to cost, to facilities, to personnel, and whatever. And if quite possibly finances are a blockade or a barrier, please call me, and I'll be glad to sit down with you and we can certainly talk about ways we can make this work. And we'd like to focus on working all this out and having you as part of our faith community. Now, these are families that have been vetted. You've already looked at their applications. You've already realized they've been accepted, and maybe they have not taken you up on your order. And I think that's important. The principal letter, it's directly from the principal, in which the family is invited to call directly to that principal and go in and have a conversation. Understand the top 10 reasons, and this is lesson 15 in the book, page 75, and this is the lesson that we're covering right now. And if you would read those top 10 reasons that are so important in regards to enrollment management, I think you'll see some of them intertwining with what we're talking about now. So as you look at this, I think that particular lesson in the book really articulates these top 10 very easily. External and internal signage. What is your signage like? Is it colorful? Is it, I call it Disney-like? Is it something that people would look at and really feel like they're part of something that's well organized, well articulated? Is the signage throughout the exterior of the school, is it clever? Is it unique fonts? Is it strategically placed on campus? What about the interior of the school and hallways, walkways, classrooms, gyms, cafeteria, auditorium? Is it built around a theme for this year? Once again, signage is important. That's external. Those verbal and visual messages that are so important that really restate. And do they change? And do they reinforce? And do they really commend? And do they, I just think signage is so important rather than just a drab school with maybe one or two posters filling it up. There are schools that have gone ahead and created their own app, which is like a mini website, as you know. And of course, the last bullet point is the real value, I think, is with push notifications. You can get notifications out to your parents, to your students, and others. It's all personalized. You get the latest news, updates, invitations, results, etc. And so, once again, I think this is certainly a key piece to take a look at. Lastly, in terms of suggestions, school retention plan. One of the things we ask is, do you have one? Is this part of enrollment management? You know, as we said, enrollment management means just that, managing your enrollment. As enrollment management, it's not just about attracting new families. It is about managing the ones that you have. And so therefore, how do you retain them? And so do you have a retention action plan where you've identified the challenges that you face in retention, and you have created some strategic solutions for that are smart, measurable, achievable, relevant, and driven by a timetable? I think it's important to have a written school retention plan. I think that's very important. So as we move from November to December, as we move from the upcoming Thanksgiving, there is one selection for homework. And I've made this easy in terms of being able to write something, challenging in terms of conversation. What is your wow? What is your wow? What would you say your wow is? What would you say that is something that no other school could quite possibly say, but really distinguishes you, that really makes you unique, that really has you in terms of all this, make sure you're standing head and shoulders in terms of recognition, not necessarily making you better than, but just what is your wow? And so between now and the next class, class 8, I'd like for you to just in a paragraph or a sentence, send me your wow. What exactly is it? What is that wow? It'll take some discussion. This is not an answer that should come from one person. This is an answer that should come from the people who actually market and promote the school. And this is something that may change. You may send it in by way of a homework assignment, but it may get you thinking, and in 3 months from now, that wow may change. That's okay. This is a starting point. This is a beginning. I want you to send to me what you think is your wow. When we start the next lesson, I'm going to read a bunch of them to you, and hopefully I'll be able to say this is perfect. But those that are not, I'm going to say, well, how many other Catholic schools can say the same thing? So that's the homework assignment, okay? It's a homework assignment. Okay, we've got about 3 or 4 minutes, so I'm going to see, we've got a couple of questions, and I want to make sure that I answer those questions. Who do you recommend administer the exit survey? Many times I think there are three possibilities. One would be administration. One would be a person, and I've had several schools that do this. They have somebody from their board that does that, and then number 3 would be someone who was just objective, quite possibly an alum, quite possibly a person who's a member of the parish or whatever, or member of alumni group. But you're picking people that are not going to be confrontational. You're picking people that are not going to be subjective. You're picking people that are objective, and they are simply seeking information. They're not arguing. They're not defending. They're not doing anything but trying to gather information. That's primarily what you're looking for. So those are the 3. I probably have had more success, with that objective piece than any, in terms of that. Okay. I don't fully understand. What suggestions do you have when there are competing Catholic schools, multiple parish schools in the same geographic area? Also, what suggestions do you have about engaging diverse communities? Do I recommend on the exit interview to take place face-to-face? Preferably, preferably. But sometimes, that's kind of difficult to do. So I think a good phone conversation can be good. I guess I don't particularly like the written surveys and all that. I mean, if that's the only thing you can get, then do it. The reason why I don't like the written survey so much is because you can't have a conversation. You can't probe a little bit more, not to defend, but just be able to understand what they say a little bit more. In terms of that. So let's see. In trying to read these questions. The diocese sent out, here's one where the diocese sent out an exit survey. That's obviously an answer. I'm just always been prejudiced to conversations. But if the only way you can make this happen is through the exit survey, like that, that's fine. How does an advancement officer salary wage be incorporated into school budget when we currently are a group of volunteers team? Well, I mean, I don't fully understand that situation, but primarily the development officer, enrollment management should be part of the school budget. That's all part of it. Once again, if it's a volunteer effort, then it's not part of the school budget. Only so far as expenses go in terms of mailings and postage and receptions and materials and printing and all that type of thing. But in terms of salaries, then that should be a salaried position. That's our recommendation, unless you've got a part-time situation where you only can afford to pay somebody $10. I mean, not $10, 10 hours a week for X number of dollars. But in the ideal world, you'd want to have that situation be where it is a salary position and very much a part of what is going on. Like I said, I'm just a firm believer that the development advancement officer should be part of that administrative team and be very much involved in those conversations. Anyway, there are a couple of other questions. We're about to run out of time, so I would say if I didn't get to your question, and I don't think I got to a couple of them, then I once again, and two people said the audio went in and out. I apologize. Hopefully that was not a problem with everyone. Okay, as we move this forward, I'm just making sure that that I've answered or looked at all these questions. But if you have anything specific, please just email me, and I'll be glad to get back with you on it. There's not a survey with this class. So once again, as you move forward, if you can indicate what your WOW is and get that to me as we move to the from November to December. And then lastly, just to thank all of you, and also want to take this time to wish all of you a very wonderful Thanksgiving. Hope you get some downtime. Hope you're able to take some time off and enjoy family. Once again, enjoyed sharing these ideas, and I'll send a lot of this out to you here within the next hour. So be kind of on the lookout for the PowerPoint as well as the handouts for this particular lesson. Okay, thank you. Hopefully it's been enjoyable. Bye now.